Good evening, everyone. And here we are on Monday, the 17th of April 2023. This is TAPP Water in Malta. My name's Phil from TAPP Water. And tonight we're going to be taking a look at what contaminants are filtered out with tap water, in particular from the water in Malta. And so if you're watching on the replay, you'll find us live most Monday evenings, but not all of them. And you'll see us on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Twitter. And you can see all the recordings on there. You can also sign up to our newsletter at TAPP Water Malta. So we're tappwater.mt. You can sign up to our newsletter there, and you'll get all the offers and also see when we're scheduled to be live. So this is what we're looking at this evening. This is live number 67 here in Malta. And we're here to answer, or I'm here to answer your questions. We can do a live Q&A. You can post comments and questions both on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube and Twitter anytime during the session, and I will see them. And also you can give us a message also on WhatsApp if you want to, if you happen to be watching. If you get any questions, whether you're live or you're watching the replay later, you can send us questions on WhatsApp on this number in Malta, and we'll be able to help you out. So let's get started then. What contaminants are filtered by tap water in Malta? So what we're talking about is the filtration for products such as these. This is the EcoPro, which fits to your kitchen mixer, and then filters the tap water into great tasting drinking water. So the normal water comes through here like that, you flick the switch like that, and then filtered water is coming out of here. So very brief product demo there, so you know what we're talking about. Absolutely number one for Malta is chlorine. Chlorine is the contributor to the taste in Malta, and most people would say that their tap water in Malta tastes pretty bad. And it's a combination of things, but at the base of that is chlorine. Now, chlorine is very important. It's used in most developing nations for making sure that the water, when it's being transported to your home through the public service pipes, it is going to be good to drink. And the reason you put chlorine in it is in order to avoid getting pathogens in the water. So in fact, in Malta, we have a very low level of pathogens in the testing. Water Services Corporation does 5,000 tests a year over the 2,500 kilometres of piping that is around in Malta. And there's a very low recorded level of testing for pathogens. So the water is pretty much bacteria free, which is great. But that is because of the level of chlorine that you've got in the water. And so that our water filters are achieving the NSF 42 standard, which means that chlorine is eliminated and also particulates up to 99%. So that's really important for that. So a very important thing for Malta, you're removing over 99% plus of the chlorine. So what's next that's important for Malta? Well, that's nitrates. We have heard, and you've probably seen on various news items, that Malta has a fairly high level of nitrates and also nitrites. Now, nitrates in themselves are not such a bad thing for health, unless it goes over a certain limit. So you do need to be careful. We need nitrates in our body. However, the water filter, such as ours, for instance, tap water, is removing over 90% of the nitrates in the water. Now, where do the nitrates come from? Well, they come from the groundwater. The groundwater is fairly high in nitrates because what happens is the agriculture is using a lot of fertilizer. The fertilizer goes through the soil, then to the plants, then it has runoff into the groundwater, and then years later that appears in our water stream. So nitrates are an important one there, and that is also removed from the filtration. So if you have joined us, you're very welcome to ask any questions. Just pop them in the comments box on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, or Twitter. And you're very welcome if you've just joined us. So we've covered chlorine and nitrates first of all. And then we are going to look at the next one, which is a third thing that's really important for Malta. And thank you for sticking around if you're still here. So I can see some of you still online, so that's good. So Malta had a few years back in 2020, some reports about the high levels of trihalomethanes, THMs, in the water in Malta. And that THMs is a chemical reaction with some organic compounds between chlorine and the organic compounds. So it's a reaction which is caused by adding chlorine to the water, which is a good thing because it keeps the water disinfected. So you add chlorine to the water, but then you get some issues with trihalomethanes. Now, trihalomethanes in small doses are considered to be okay. However, in higher doses, they are linked to causes of cancer, so they are counted as a carcinogen. And so it is something that you would probably want to have removed from your water. And tap water filters are removing 99% plus, which is in accordance with NSF standard 53. So tap water being a global company, it's distributed in 30 to 35 different countries over the world. So here in Malta, we can rely on the standards that tap water have already applied for and been tested for. So in particular, chlorine, which is standard 42, and trihalomethanes, which is part of standard 53. Both standards are applicable to the tap water filters. So we've done chlorine, nitrates, and trihalomethanes. What have we got next? These nice things called haloacetic acids. They are also something that happens because you put chlorine in the water. So chlorine reacts with various things, and one of the things that can be produced is haloacetic acids, and 95% of those are removed by tap water filters. There's also been, I think last year there was a report out of Malta's high level of nitrates and high level of ammonia in the water. So you'll be pleased to know that although ammonia is largely a gas produced, it can be in your water, but we've not seen tested high levels of that. However, 95% of it will be removed if it is found in your water. And one of the things about having a water filter is that on the whole, water is coming through the pipes and it is achieving the standards set by EU and WHO. However, things happen. You may get fluctuations in various tests over particular periods of time. So in all parts of the country, in all locations, the water is different at different times. Because you're pushing water through 2,500 kilometres. Now, obviously, Water Services Corporation is always achieving standards nationally and consistently as much as they can. However, things do happen. And that's why having a water filter exactly at the point of delivery at the end of your kitchen mixer is always going to protect you in case things happen. So if there was a sudden rush of ammonia, for instance, as an example, then you'd know that 95% of it was going to be removed. We also know that there are plenty of pesticides and herbicides used in our agricultural production. Just like the nitrates, that is going to filter through. It's not one of those things that is tested so much here in Malta, so there's no, I think there are some legislations for some of the items, but in general terms, having a water filter that is removing 95% plus of those from your water is also going to be protective. We also know that we have an issue with limescale. in Malta. So in fact, lime is actually added to the water as part of the treatment process. So after reverse osmosis, there isn't very much left in the water at that point. So you add chlorine to make sure it's disinfected as it goes through the pipe. And you also add things like lime, for instance, because that adds minerals back into the water and creates body, and it creates a flavour to it, which masks some of the chlorine flavour or balances it out. So lime scale then causes a problem. It tastes great. It tastes okay. It makes the water harder, which some people may not like. However, it does cause scaling inside the kettle. It causes scaling inside coffee machines and stuff like that. And that is actually reduced by up to 80% with a tap water filter. The thing that does that is actually an inhibitor, which is a proprietary formula, and you can hear the sound of it in there. It's actually some ionization beads, which doesn't remove the calcium from the water, because you kind of want that in your water because that's a healthy mineral, but it does inhibit the lime scale, which is calcium carbonate, from forming and sticking to the surfaces of your kettles or coffee mixtures, coffee makers. So it reduces that greatly, okay, by up to 80%. So that is a proprietary formula that's inside the filter. Now, something else, pathogens. We said before that as the Malta water, public supply water, has a fairly high level of chlorine in it, or chlorine is added to the water in order to protect us. It does the job, and the pathogens that we would look for are things like E. coli, microbial cysts and things like that, and those are also removed by tap water filters should you ever have those in the water. So again, that's something you can rely on because it has been tested. It achieves the various international standards such as NSF 42 and 53, and in particular for pathogens, activated carbon blocks such as the ones we use in our water filters, which look like this. This is the activated carbon blocks are very good at removing pathogens, up to 95% of the common types that we would find in water. There were some tests done a few years ago on water in Malta in various places, and those tests were all about sort of heavy metals, in particular lead, aluminium and stuff like that, and there were various concentrations of heavy metals found in various places. I haven't seen any other test results after those tests done. They're quite a few years ago. However, it's always good to have a water filter to protect you against things like that. Thanks very much. I've seen some more people join us. If you would like to ask any comments or questions, just pop them in the comments box wherever you are, on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube or Twitter, and that would be great. Thank you. So there is a standard, an international standard, NSF standard 53, and tap water is tested for that standard as well, which covers some other things, but in particular it covers lead. You've probably seen maybe on the news some areas in America suffering from lead poisoning in their distribution network. We have less of an issue of that, as far as I know, in Malta. However, it's always good to know that things like atrazine, benzene, chloridane, chloroform, lindane and mercury are all filtered out by a water filter. And in particular, tap water filters. This is about tap water filters and an activated carbon block such as we use. So some of the other things you might want to consider: aluminum, antimony, arsenic, barium, cadmium, copper, iron, manganese, nickel, selenium and zinc. Selenium and zinc are not something that are that poisonous to you in small enough quantities. In fact, they're needed. However, in higher quantities, you're not going to really want them around. And iron is something that we think about here in Malta. For any of you who have seen used water filters, such as this one, this particular colour here, let's cut to a sort of closer version to it. You see that colour there. That's a well-used filter after about 3 months. This is a fairly unused filter, and you can see the difference in colour. And that difference in colour is really down to things like rust and sediment in the water, as well as possibly in the pipes. So Water Services Corporation does say that sometimes you get a flush of rusty water or dirty water through the pipes, and that's because they have been working within the piping system in order to be able to improve it, and you then see that water come through. Now what happens is it clears fairly quickly. However, you wouldn't want it to be in your water in sort of any concentrations at all. So it's always good to have a water filter that takes that out for you. So if you have joined us, please do ask any questions. Just pop them in the comments box on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook or Twitter, and we can come to your questions then. So a quick recap, what we've done so far. We've done what tap water filters out. Chlorine, over 99%. The nitrates, over 90%. Trihalomethanes, 99% and above, in accordance with the standard NSF 53. Haloacetic acids, HHAs, easier to say, HAAs, nearly easy to say. Ammonia, pesticides, herbicides. Lime scale is reduced by the inhibitor. Pathogens such as E. coli and microbial cysts. And then aluminium, antimony, arsenic, barium, cadmium, copper, iron, manganese, nickel, selenium, and zinc, which is what we've just done. Now, fluoride. That's not much of an issue here in Malta. It is not added to our water. In some countries, it is added to the water. And there has been a bit of controversy about that over the years. Some people don't think you should be adding it to the water. Other people think that it's okay. It depends. If you ask a dentist, then a dentist will say that it's a good thing. And in Malta, we have naturally occurring fluoride in the water, but we don't have any water fluoride addition, which is a good thing. However, it's filtered up to around 70% when you're using a tap water filter. Lithium is an interesting one. I've not seen any reports of problems with lithium in Malta. However, it does come to be a concern where there's some new research, which I'll be writing about within a couple of weeks, linking lithium contamination with conditions such as autism. And I'm not going to say too much about that because I haven't done enough research on it. I'm due to write an article over the next coming weeks. But that's certainly an interesting one to look at. And lithium is filtered out with a tap water filter. Microplastics, a growing conversation. I refer to that quite often. It's a growing conversation. There's certainly been some research in Malta about how much microplastics there is in the ocean in the coastal areas of Malta. We know because we sort of see it all the time, but microplastics, which are small bits of plastic, we see the larger bits of plastics all the time, but microplastics are an issue that is up and coming. There is more research being done on how much microplastics we are actually ingesting. The latest research on National Geographic was saying there was up to 5 grams a week per person, either from your food and water systems and also from the air that you're ingesting. So 5 grams is about a credit card. Imagine that every week. So it is found in water systems. It is definitely found in bottled water. Kind of makes sense because it's in a plastic bottle. So it's definitely found in bottled water, but it is also found in your tap water supply, although I have not seen any tests specifically for tap water and microplastics in Malta. However, I would say that a tap water filter like this eliminates your microplastics and filters out your microplastics from the water, so you would not have to worry about it using a tap water filter. PFASs, so these are called perfluorinated chemicals, but they're known as forever chemicals. And they're known as forever chemicals because they stick around for a long time. And there has not been any research that I have found so far for those in Malta. However, if you look in Europe and also in America, there has been a lot of research on contamination from PFASs in the drinking water. So good thing is tap water filters those out up to 95% plus, and that's always a good thing because probably the research that you ever see saying that there is something in the water is after many years after you've been drinking the water. It's not before. So having a water filter really helps with things like that, so you do not have to be concerned. Antibiotics and pharmaceuticals, again, not seen so much research in Malta on that. However, in Europe and America, certainly see some research on contamination from the whole cycle of both agriculture, feeding animals antibiotics, and also human pharmaceuticals that end up in the waste and then the water system. So that is the whole list. Is going through. It's also on our website, so if you would like to have a look at that. And also we have the independent tests results that we had done in 2020 when we first launched, where you have all the different types of contaminants that are tested for. So it's a very comprehensive test. We could not have that test done in Malta. We had to send the water abroad, which was costly. It was well over €1,000 in order to be able to have that test done. But it proves the water filter, filtered water at negligible contamination for all the ones you would be worried about in Malta, such as nitrates, chlorines, THMs, and all that kind of stuff. And also I would say that the tap water filters are they're filtering out all the things that you don't want, but you're keeping the healthy minerals, such as calcium, for instance, sodium and stuff like that. I quite often get asked how much sodium is in the water. With our tests, we had tested 26 milligrams a litre. And when you consider that the EU limit is something like 200 milligrams a litre, it is well below that. In fact, I often get asked that in relation to using tap water for babies. Tap water for babies is perfectly okay. You can use a water filter for your formula because human breast milk has approximately 45 milligrams per litre in it already. So if you're using water with a sodium level of 26 milligrams a limit, and the EU limit is 200 milligrams a limit, it's perfectly safe for using for babies, young children, pets and plants, and all sorts of other things like that. I also often get asked, what's the pH level of our water? And I think we're quite fortunate in Malta. We have some very healthy minerals in the water, and that means that you've got alkaline levels pH of between 8 and 9 in the water, and you'll see that confirmed on Water Services national tests, which they publish the results. You can get that on WSC Live. And the results are around sort of 8 and 9 on the whole, which is an alkaline water. That means it's got lots of minerals in it. It does mean that we have a high total dissolved solids TDS score for water. But if it's tasting good, then a TDS score of depending on where you are, a high TDS score isn't an issue if you're happy that all the other things have been filtered out. Take, for example, all the things that we know that you really want to be filtering out and you really don't want in your water. They are not measured by a TDS score. A TDS score is really measuring mostly healthy minerals. It is measuring the nitrates, but in comparison, the nitrates are a very small part of all the healthy minerals that you have in the water. So a TDS score isn't really giving you a quality score for the water at all, because if it had high concentrations of lead, for instance, in the water, or THMs, you would think that it was very poor water quality. but you wouldn't necessarily have your TDS score that would indicate that, because it wouldn't. So we kind of ignore the TDS scores. The WHO guidelines that I've written about on our website do not point out to a high TDS score being an issue in public supply drinking water. So it is just something that is used in marketing from some other companies, but not by us, because we would not expect the TDS to change, because we're keeping the healthy minerals in the water. So, just coming up to 28 minutes on a Monday evening, and thank you very much for coming to this particular live. Next week, we will be live and talking about the new government grant on water filters. It was launched today, and we will have the details tomorrow, and I'll be doing a live on that in a week's time. But I don't have any details at the moment. So thank you very much for joining us. I'll be signing off, and we haven't had any questions this evening, but if you're watching the replay, you can catch us on live on a Monday evening at 7 p.m. and you can check out our Facebook page to see when those are happening. And in the meantime, if you have got any other questions, please do give us a call or send us a message on 356 998 66142 on WhatsApp. We'll be able to help you out. And that's all for this evening. And I'll play us out with a little bit of music. And thank you very much for listening this evening.